she came to the feast, no one knew what to say for wonder at her beauty. And the king's son danced with her alone, and when anyone else asked her to dance, he said, "This lady is my partner." Now, when night came and she wanted to go home, and the king's son would go with her, and said to himself, "I will not lose her this time." But however, she managed to slip away from him, though in such a hurry that she dropped her left golden slipper upon the stairs. So the prince took the shoe and went the next day to the king, his father, and said, "I will take for my wife the lady that this golden slipper fits." Then both the sisters were overjoyed to hear this, for they had beautiful feet, and had no doubt that they could wear the golden slipper. The eldest went first into the room where the slipper was, and wanted to try it on, and the mother stood by, but her great toe could not go into it, and the shoe was altogether much too small for her. Then the mother gave her a knife, and said, "Never mind, cut it off. When you are queen, you will not care about your toes. You will not want to go on foot." So the silly girl cut her great toe off, and squeezed the shoe on, and went to the king's son. Then he took her for his bride, and set her beside him on his horse, and rode away with her. But in their way home, they had to pass by the hazel tree that Cinderella had planted, and there sat a little dove on the branch, singing, "Back again, back again, look to the shoe is too small and not made for you." "Prince! Prince! Look again for thine bride, for she's not the true one that sits by thy side." Then the prince got down and looked at her foot, and saw by the blood that streamed from it what a trick she had played him. So he turned his horse around and brought that false bride back to her home, and said, "This is not the right bride." I don't know why I suddenly decided he was British. Let the other sister try and put on the slipper." Then she went into the room and got her foot into the shoe, all but the heel, which was too large. But her mother squeezed it in till the blood came, and took her to the king's son, and he set her as his bride by his side on his horse, and rode away with her. But when they came to the hazel tree, the little dove sate there still, and sang, "Back again, back again, look to the shoe is too small and not made for you." "Prince! Prince! Look again for thine bride, for she's not the true one that sits by thy side." Then he he looked down and saw the blood streamed so from the shoe that her white stockings were quite red. So he turned his horse and brought her back again also. "This is not the true bride," he said to his father. "Have you no other daughters?" "No," said he. There is only a little dirty Cinderella here, the child of my first wife. I am sure she cannot be the bride." However, the prince told him to send her, but the mother said, "No, no, she is much too dirty. She will not dare to show herself." However, the prince would have her come, and she first washed her face and hands, and then went in and curtsied to him, and he reached her the golden slipper. Then she took her clumsy shoe off of her left foot and put on the golden slipper, and it fitted her as if it had been made for her. And when he drew near and looked at her face, he knew her, and said, "This is the right bride." But the mother and both sisters were frightened and turned pale with anger as he took Cinderella on his horse and rode away with her. And when they came to the hazel tree, the white dove sang, "Home, home, look at the shoe. Princess, the shoe was made for you. Prince, prince, take home thy bride, for she is the true one that sits by thy side." And when the dove had done its song, it came flying and perched upon her right shoulder, and so went home with her. The Young Giant and the Tailor. A husbandman had once a son who was born no bigger than my thumb, and for many years did not grow a hair's breadth taller. One day, as the father was going to plow in the field, the little fellow said, "Father, let me go too."
"No," said his father. "Stay where you are. You can do no good out of doors, and if you go, perhaps I may lose you."
When the little thumbling fell a-crying, and his father, to quiet him, at last said he might go. So he put him in his pocket, and when he was in the field, pulled him out and set him upon a newly made furrow, that he might look about. Excuse me. While he was sitting there, a great giant came striding over the hill.
Do you see that
tall, steeply man?" said the father. "He will run away with you." Now, he only said this to frighten the little boy, if he should be naughty. But the giant had long legs, and with 2 or 3 strides he really came close to the furrow, and picked up the thumbling to look at him, and taking a liking to the little chap, went off with him. The father stood by all this time, but could not say a word for fright. for he thought his child was really lost and that he should never see him again. But the giant took care of him at his house in the woods, and laid him in his bosom, and fed him with the same food that he lived on himself. So Thumbling, instead of being a little dwarf, became like a giant, tall and stout and strong, so that at the end of 2 years, when the old giant took him into the wood to try him and said,
"Pull that birch tree for yourself to walk with."
the lad was so strong that he tore it up by the root. The giant thought he should make him a still stronger man than this, so after taking care of him 2 years more, he took him into the wood to try his strength again. This time he took hold of one of the thickest oaks and pulled it up as if it were mere sport to him. Then the old giant said,
"Well done, my man. You will do now."
So he carried him back to the field where he first found him. His father happened to be just then plowing as the young giant went up to him, saying,
"Look here, father. See who... Look here, father. See who I am? Don't you see I am your son?"
But the husbandman was frightened and cried out,
"No! No! You are not my son! Begone about your business!"
"Indeed, I am your son. Let me plow a little. I can plow as well as you."
"No! Go your ways,"
said the father. But as he was afraid of the tall man, he at last let go the plow and sat down on the ground beside it. Then the youth lay hold of the plowshare, and though he only pushed with one hand, he drove it deep into the earth. The plowman cried out,
"If you must plow, pray do not push so hard. You are doing more harm than good."
But he took off the horses and said,
"Father, go home and tell my mother to get ready a good dinner. I'll go round the field meanwhile."
So he went on driving the plow without any horses till he had done 2 mornings' work by himself. Then he harrowed it, and when all was over, took up the plows, harrow, horses, and all, and carried them home like a bundle of straw. When he reached the house, he sat himself down on the bench, saying,
"Now, mother, is my dinner ready?"
"Yes," said she, for she dared not deny him. So she brought 2 large dishes full, enough to have lasted herself and her husband 8 days. However, he soon ate it all up, and said that was but a taste.
"I see very well, father, that I shan't get enough to eat at your house. So if you will give me an iron walking stick, so strong that I cannot break it against my knee, I will go away again."
The husbandman very gladly put his 2 horses to the cart and drove them to the forge, and brought back a bar of iron as long and as thick as 2 horses could draw. But the lad lay against it against his knee, and snap, It went like a broken beanstalk.
I see, father, said he. You can get no stick that will do for me. So I'll go, and I'll try my luck by myself.
Then away he went and turned blacksmith, and traveled till he came to the village where lived a miserly smith who earned a good deal of money, but kept all he got to himself and gave nothing away to anybody. The first thing he did was to step into the smithy and ask if the smith did not want a journeyman. "Aye," said the cunning fellow, as he looked at him and thought what a stout chap he was, and how lustily he would work and earn his bread. "What wages do you ask?"
I want no pay, said he.
"But every fortnight when the other workmen are paid, you shall..."
"But every fortnight when the other workmen are paid, you shall let me give you 2 strokes over the shoulder to amuse myself."
The old smith thought to himself he could bear this very well, and reckoned on saving a great deal of money. So the bargain was soon struck. The next morning the new workman was about to begin to work, but at the first stroke that he hit, when his master brought him the iron red hot, he shivered it to pieces, and the anvil sunk so deep into the earth that he could not get it out again. This made the old fellow very angry. "Howoo!" he cried. I can't have you for a workman. You are too clumsy. We must put an end to our bargain."
"Very well," said the other. "But you must pay for what I have done. So let me give you only 1 little stroke, and then the bargain is all over."
So saying, he gave him a thump that tossed him over a load of hay that stood near. Then he took the thickest bar of iron on the forge for a walking stick and went on his way. Excuse me. When he had journeyed some way, he came to a farmhouse and asked the farmer if he wanted a foreman. The farmer said yes, and the same wages were agreed upon as before with the blacksmith. The next morning the workmen were all to go into the wood, but the giant was found to be fast asleep in his bed when the rest were all up and ready to start. "Come, get up," said one of them to him. "It is high time to be stirring. You must go with us."
"Go your way," muttered he sulkily. "I shall have done my work, and get home long before you."
So he lay in bed 2 hours longer, and at last got up and cooked and ate his breakfast, and then at his leisure harnessed his horses to go to the wood. Just before the wood was hollow, through which all must pass. So he drove the cart first and built up behind him such amount of faggots and briars that no one could pass. This done, he drove on, and as he was going into the wood, met the others coming out of their road home. "Drive away," said he.
"Drive away," said he. "I shall be home before you still."
However, he only went a very little way into the wood and tore up one of the largest timber trees, put it into his cart, and turned about homewards.
When he came
When he came to the pile of faggots, he found all the others standing there, not being able to pass by. "So," said he, "you see, if you had strayed with me, you would have been home as soon and might have slept an hour or two longer." Then he took his tree on one shoulder and his cart on the other, and pushed through as easily as though he were laden with feathers. And when he reached the yard, showed the tree to the farmer, and asked if it was not a famous walking stick. "Why," said the farmer, "this man is worth something. If he sleeps longer, still he works better than the rest." Time rolled on, and he had served the farmer his whole year. When his fellow laborers were paid, he said he also had a right to take wages. But great dread came over the farmer at the thought of the blows he was to have, so he begged him to give up the old bargain and take his whole farm and stock instead. "Not I," said he. "I will be no farmer. I am a foreman, and so I mean to keep and be paid as we agreed." Finding he could do nothing with him, the farmer only begged one fortnight's respite, and called together all his friends to ask their advice in the matter. They bethought themselves for a long time, and at last agreed that the shortest way was to kill this troublesome foreman. The next thing was to settle how it was to be done, and it was agreed that he should be ordered to carry into the yard some great millstones, and to put them on the edge of the well, that then he should be sent down to clean it out, and when he was at the bottom, the millstone should be pushed down upon his head. Everything went right, and when the foreman was safe in the well, the stones were rolled in. As they struck the bottom, the water splashed to the very top. Of course, they thought his head must be crushed to pieces, but he only cried out, "Drive away the chickens from the well. They are pecking about in the sand above me and throwing it into my eyes so that I cannot see." When his job was done, he sprang from the well, saying, "Look there, see what a fine neckcloth I have." Excuse me, as he pointed to one of the millstones that had fallen over his head and hung about his neck. Excuse me. The farmer was again overcome with fear and begged another fortnight to think of it. So his friends were called together again, and at last gave his advice that the foreman should be sent to grind corn by night at the haunted mill, whence no man had ever yet come out in the morning alive. That very evening he was told to carry 8 bushels of corn to the mill and grind them in the night. Away went to the loft, put 2 bushels in his right pocket, 2 in his left, and 4 in a long sack slung over his shoulders, and then set off to the mill. The miller told him he might grind there in the daytime, but not by night, for the mill was bewitched, and whoever went in at night had been found dead in the morning. "Never mind, miller, I shall come out safe," said he. "Only make haste and get out of the way, and look out for me in the morning." So he went into the mill and put the corn into the hopper, and about 12 o'clock sat himself down on a bench in the miller's room. After a little time, the door all at once opened of itself, and in came a large table. On the table stood wine and meat, and many good things besides. All seemed placed there by themselves, and at any rate there was no one to be seen. The chairs next moved themselves around it, but still neither guests nor servants came, till all at once he saw fingers handling the knives and forks and putting food on the plates, but still nothing else was to be seen. Now our friend felt somewhat hungry as he looked at the dishes, so he sat himself down at the table and ate whatever he liked best. And when he had had enough, and the plates were empty, on a sudden he heard something blow out the light. When it was pitch dark, he felt a tremendous blow upon his head. "If I get such another box on the ear," said he, "I shall just give it back again." And this he really did when the next blow came. Thus the game went on all night, and he never let fear get the better of him, but kept dealing his blows around till at daybreak all was still. "Well, miller," said he in the next morning, "I have had some little slaps in the face, but I've given as good, I'll warrant you, and meantime I have eaten as much as I liked." The miller was glad to find the charm was broken, and would have given him a great deal of money. "I want no money, I have quite enough." And as he took the meal on his back, and went home to his master to claim his wages. But the farmer was in a rage, knowing there was no help for him, and paced the room up and down till the drops of sweat ran down his forehead. Then he opened the window for a little fresh air, and before he was aware, his foreman gave the first blow and kicked him out of the window over the hills and far away, and next sent his